The scale factor. Welcome, everyone. Before we dive into today's new topic, let's take a moment to recap what we've already covered. In our previous lesson, we established the essential criteria for similarity between two polygons. We learned that for two shapes to be considered similar, two specific conditions must be met. First, all of their corresponding angles must be exactly equal, and second, their corresponding sides must maintain the same ratio. Now, today we are going to focus specifically on that second point. That consistent, unchanging ratio we see between the sides of similar figures is a fundamental concept in geometry, and we refer to it by a specific name, the scale factor. Over the next few slides, we will explore exactly how to calculate this and how it is applied in the real world. Understanding the scale factor. Think of this way. When we talk about two polygons being similar, we are essentially saying that one is just a magnified or a reduced version of the other. It's like using a zoom lens on a camera. The shape stays exactly the same, but the size changes. The specific number that tells us how much that size has changed. The number we multiply the side lengths of our first polygon by to arrive at the side lengths of the second polygon, is what we call the scale factor. To be precise, let's look at the mathematical definition. Suppose we have two similar polygons, which we will call P1 and P2. If we take the length of a side from our first polygon, let's call S1, and we look at its corresponding side in the second polygon, which we'll call S2, then the scale factor, which we represent with the letter K, is calculated by dividing S2 by S1. In other words, K equals S2 over S1. Now, there is a very important rule to remember when you look at the value of K. If your result for K is greater than 1, it means the second figure has been enlarged. However, if K is a fraction less than 1, it means the second figure is a reduction or a smaller version of the original. Keep this in mind, as it will be crucial when we look at how professionals use this concept in maps and blueprints in the next few slides. Now that we've established that similar polygons have equal angles and proportional sides, let's dive deeper into what that proportion actually represents. The representative fraction, RF. Now that we understand the basic concept of the scale factor as a ratio between sides, let's look at how this is applied in professional settings. In specialized fields like cartography, which is the science of map making, or in engineering, you won't always hear the term scale factor. Instead, professionals use a term called the representative fraction, or RF for short. The way we write an RF is quite specific. It is expressed as a ratio or a fraction, and we always aim to have a numerator of 1. This makes it very easy to see exactly how much the real world has been shrunk down for the drawing. To put this into a formula, the RF represents the ratio of the distance you see on your drawing or model to the actual distance on the ground in the real world. Mathematically, we express this as representative fraction equals the distance on the map or drawing divided by the actual distance on the ground. As we will see in our upcoming examples with world maps and blueprints, the key to mastering this is ensuring both those distances are in the exact same units before you perform the division. Real-world applications. Think about the power of the scale factor. It essentially gives us the ability to shrink the entire world down to a size we can hold in our hands. It allows us to represent massive objects, like a skyscraper, or vast distances, like the width of an ocean, on a small piece of paper. The beauty of this is that even though the size changes, the exact shape and the proportions of the original object remain perfectly preserved. Now that we understand the mathematical definition of the scale factor and how it's referred to as the representative fraction in fields like engineering, let's take a moment to consider why this concept is actually so important in our daily lives. In the next few slides, we are going to look at two concrete examples, a world map and an architectural blueprint, to see exactly how we use these calculations to bridge the gap between a small drawing and the real world. Example A: world maps. Now that we understand the theory behind the representative fraction, let's put it into practice with a real-world scenario. Imagine you are looking at a world map, and you notice that the distance between two specific cities is marked as 5 centimeters. However, in the real world, the actual distance on the ground between these two cities is 500 kilometers. Our goal here is to find the representative fraction, or the RF, for this map. Let's walk through the calculation step by step. First, we need to identify our given values. We have our map distance, which is 5 centimeters, and our actual distance, which is 500 kilometers. Second, and this is a crucial step that I'll emphasize again later, we must unify our units. As we discussed in the previous slides, you cannot create a meaningful ratio using two different units like centimeters and kilometers. To make them comparable, we need to convert the kilometers into centimeters. Since 1 kilometer is equal to 100,000 centimeters, we multiply 500 by 100,000. This gives us a total of 50 million centimeters. Third, we apply the RF formula we learned earlier, which is the distance on the map divided by the actual distance on the ground. So, we place 5 centimeters in the numerator and 50 million centimeters in the denominator. Finally, we simplify this fraction. When we divide both the top and the bottom by 5, we get 1 over 10 million. So, our representative fraction is 1 over 10 million. In plain English, this tells us that every single centimeter you see on this map represents 10 million centimeters, or, to make it easier to visualize, 100 kilometers in the actual world. This same logic of unit conversion and ratio simplification is exactly what we are going to apply in our next example involving architectural blueprints. Example B, architectural blueprints. Imagine an architect is designing a house. They've drawn a wall on their blueprint that measures 10 centimeters in length, but in the real world, that actual wall in the finished building will be 5 meters long. Our goal here is to find the scale factor for this blueprint. Let's walk through the calculation step by step, just as we did with the map example. First, we identify our given values. We have a blueprint length of 10 centimeters and an actual length of 5 meters. Next, and this is a crucial step to remember from our previous slide, we must unify our units. We cannot compare centimeters directly to meters. So, let's convert the meters into centimeters. Since 1 meter equals 100 centimeters, 5 meters becomes 5 times 100, which gives us 500 centimeters. Now, we apply our scale factor formula. We take the blueprint length and divide it by the actual length. That gives us 10 centimeters divided by 500 centimeters. Finally, we simplify this fraction. 10 divided by 500 simplifies down to 1 over 50. This tells us that the scale of this blueprint is 1 to 50. In practical terms, this means that every 1 unit of measurement on the paper represents 50 of those same units in the actual house. Now that we've seen how this works with large-scale world maps, let's shift our focus to a slightly smaller, but equally important, application: architectural blueprints. This leads us perfectly into our final summary, where we will recap the key takeaways and highlight some common pitfalls to avoid. Key takeaways. First, let's revisit the core definition. The scale factor is simply the constant ratio found between the corresponding sides of two similar polygons. It is that one unchanging multiplier that links the dimensions of the original figure to its scaled version. Next, we have the representative fraction, or RF, as we saw in our discussion on maps and engineering. This is a specialized way of expressing the scale factor as a fraction. In professional practice, we almost always express this with a numerator of 1. This allows us to see at a glance how much the real-world object has been shrunk down to fit on a page. Third, it is vital to remember the principle of consistency. For two figures to truly be considered similar, the scale factor cannot vary. It must be exactly the same for every single pair of corresponding sides. If even one side uses a different ratio, the similarity is broken. Finally, a very important practical tip: always remember the necessity of unit conversion. As we demonstrated in our examples with kilometers and meters, you cannot accurately calculate a scale factor if your measurements are in different units. You must convert all values to the same unit, such as centimeters, before you perform any division. All right, we have covered a lot of ground today, from the basic definition of similarity to some very practical applications in cartography and architecture. Now, let's take a moment to consolidate everything we've learned by reviewing the key takeaways from this lesson. Now, before we wrap up, I want to highlight a few common pitfalls that students often encounter, so you can avoid them in your future calculations. Common mistakes. Now, before we wrap up today's lesson, I want to pause and discuss some common pitfalls. As we've seen in our examples with maps and blueprints, the math can get tricky if we aren't careful. First, let's talk about the danger of ignoring units. This is perhaps the most frequent mistake I see. You might be tempted to take a value in centimeters and divide it directly by a value in kilometers, but you cannot compare apples to oranges. As we practiced in example A, you must always unify your units first. My best advice: convert everything to the smallest unit involved to avoid messy decimals and ensure your ratio is accurate. Next, watch out for inverting the ratio. It is very easy to get the numerator and denominator swapped. To keep things straight, remember this rule of thumb. If you're trying to find the scale of a model, like a map or a blueprint, you put the model distance on top and the actual distance on the bottom. That is, model divided by actual. However, if you are working in the opposite direction, trying to calculate the actual real-world size using a measurement from a model, you must flip it and use actual divided by model. Finally, and this is a crucial point to remember for all your geometry problems, do not assume that angles scale along with the sides. While we have established that the side lengths are multiplied by the scale factor, the angles themselves are invariant. This means that even if a shape is enlarged or reduced, the corresponding angles remain exactly equal. They are never multiplied by the scale factor. Keep these 3 points in mind, and you will avoid the most common errors in scale factor calculations.